Well, hello and welcome to the next chapter. I am Sandi Craig and we have a full show today. So we want to thank you for being here. Go ahead, like and tune and share and let everybody know, because I'm going to get right into introducing our guests. We have with us Miss Jo Kamen right from Toledo, Ohio. Hello, Miss Jo.
Good morning. And don't forget to hit that bell button too, so that it goes ling, 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 and reminds you that the show has started.
That is exactly right. And we have Mr. Mark David Smith, our founder and our visionary and our leader. Hello, Mr. Mark David Smith. And we have and we had to get to this point because we have a really special guest today, and you want to stay tuned. You don't want to miss a word. Her name is Cora May Rathbaum, and she is Sherry's third cousin, 4 times removed. Hello, Cora. Let's get her on here. Hello, Cora May.
I'm so excited to be here. I'm just kind of sitting in for cousin Sherry till she gets back. You know, I was supposed to come down. I was just coming by for a quick howdy do, and I went out. My truck wouldn't start this morning, and I couldn't borrow the tractor from Jimmy. So I come down on the riding lawnmower, and cousin Bob and cousin Sherry said, "That ain't gonna get it, Cora May. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that." So they went on up down to the house, and they gonna jump start the truck and bring it back up here. Then we'll load the lawnmower in the back. But in the meantime, I get to hold the fort down. You know, I had a lot of errands today, so they really helping me out. You know, I was going by Uncle Bert's, and then I need to go out to our cousin's place. Daddy Sherry's Aunt Juniper girls, the twins, Florine and Doreen. You know, they the old maids in the family. They sweet girls, but they kind of funny. You know, I think it comes from living by themselves in that big old farmhouse. Aunt Juniper left them on the family's 80 acres, and they's way out town by theirself. And like I said, they're kind of funny, but you don't have to worry about no prowlers bothering them at all. Why, cousin Doreen can shoot the eye out of a butterfly in flight. And Florine is just real right-handy with her grandpa's shotgun. I mean, she don't even really have to aim it. She just kind of puts the butt up against the wall and pulls the trigger, and it just takes everything out that's in front. Them girls is real self-sufficient, you know. But, you know, they just so special because they're new to the messianic things. And since Sukkot, they've been celebrating Shabbat. And they've been enjoying it so much. Why, they just been loving it. But they kind of got off to a rough start. But it really turned out all right. You see, me, cousin Bob, and cousin Sherry took them to Sukkot. And they just loved being out in the wilderness. I mean, they just was right at home. You know, they was telling people what the bugs were and the different kind of plants, and, you know, that they could eat the kudzu leaves if they had to. And I kind of got a little show on how maybe they was a living out there on the farm. But anyway, well, you know how people bring messianic things to sell in the marketplace, and we was showing Florine and Doreen all around, and we come to this booth that had all this wine. I mean, homemade wine right there in the camp. And these two nice looking young fellers, I mean, they had big old beards and everything while they was selling that wine in the marketplace. Well, you know, I was that surprised that Florine and Doreen even stopped to look, because they had been raised Baptist, and Aunt Juniper didn't even allow rubbing alcohol in the house because it was alcohol. So imagine my surprise when they stopped at the wine booth. Well, it turned out Florine and Doreen had been learning about celebrating Shabbat. And there at Sukkot, they had taken a lot of notes. They pooled their money, and they was picking out everything they needed to celebrate Shabbat so they could take them back home. They'd gotten the nicest candles and a pretty new tablecloth and the little candle holders that was in the shape of the Star of David. All they needed was a bottle of Shabbat wine. And there it was right in front of them. While they knew it was just a sign, it was a sign, it was a sign. They was supposed to have wine at their Shabbat meal. Well, of course, they didn't know much about wine, seeing as how they was raised Baptist and all that. So they asked one of them nice fellas to pick one out for them for their first celebration of Shabbat when they got back home, and it had to be special wine. It kind of turned out to be special wine. Anyhow, when they got back home, I was invited for their Shabbat dinner, and I was so honored. Well, it turns out it was a good thing I was there, because I probably saved Doreen's life. Let me tell you what happened. Everything was fine as frog hair when I got there. I mean, they was so excited. Florine had made fresh bread and the house smelled wonderful. There was their new tablecloth looking pretty on the table, and the candles in the candle holders. And they brought fresh flowers from the field, them autumn flowers, you know, because it's after Sukkot. And I mean, boy, howdy, they had lots of food. Doreen had opened up her famous pickled eggs, and there was a jar of her bread and butter pickles there. They had been preparing and cooking for hours while they had a mess of fresh beans and rutabaga and crookneck squash and mashed taters and a peach cobbler made with peaches from the orchard. And of course they had fried chicken. Why, fried chicken is the gospel bird. Why, many a preacher has been fed fried chicken. Anyhow, Florine and Doreen brought out the Shabbat wine to open it up and to get set up all for Shabbat. Well, this particular bottle of Shabbat wine didn't have them little twisty tops on it, because it's homemade. Them fellers had put a cork in it. And being as how they used to be Baptist and all, they didn't have no corkscrew. I don't even reckon they knew what a corkscrew was. And they decided they just yanked the cork out. I thought I'd sit back and watch this one. Well, they commenced to a pulling and a tugging and a tugging and a pulling on that cork. And of course, they didn't have any success in it. So Florine, always the resourceful one, told Doreen, I'll sit on the couch and I'll hold that bottle between my legs and I'll hold on to the bottleneck real firm with my hands. And you grab the cork and you yank it out real hard. Well, you know what happened? Doreen yanked Florine right off that couch, slap dab in the floor. Well, you know, Florine didn't take it real well, but she knew it was coming on Shabbat, so she kind of calmed her temper down. They didn't get no wrestling match on the floor. But that cork in that bottle hadn't moved an inch. So Doreen told Florine, you stand up and face me, and you brace your feet and legs real firm, and you put that bottle under your arm, and you get a good grip on it and hold real firm, and I'll stand in front of you, and I'll brace myself too, and I'll grab a hold of the cork, and on the count of 3, you pull one way, and I'll pull the other. Well, they counted to 3. And they commenced a pulling and a tugging and a tugging and a pulling. Now, I'm sitting there watching this from across the room, and I noticed something. Right behind Doreen was a big picture window. And I knew if that cork blew, Doreen's trajectory was headed right for that picture window. I mean, she would have gone through it. Ho, I cried. If that baby blows, cousin Doreen, you're a goner. You are gonna go right through that picture window. Well, I mean, Doreen was so glad I saved her life. Well, we sat there and thought a while, and we decided to go out to the barn and find great grandma's old ice pick. And we dug that old cork out. Well, we decided to get a little sip and taste it. So we got out itty bitty glasses and we poured a little bit of wine in each glass. And you know how they do them people, they take a sip and they swish it around in their mouth. Well, we took a little sip, we swished it around in our mouth. And the next thing I know, we were like football players knocking each other out of the way, trying to get to the sink to spit it out. I'm telling you, them young fine fellas was a standing up there looking like they knew what they was a doing, and they sure didn't know how to make no homemade wine. I mean, it was the nastiest stuff I ever put in my mouth. Why, it tastes like old washpan water. Well, now, Cousin Florine and Doreen, I just felt right sorry for them because they looked so sad that they didn't have any wine for Shabbat. And I got to thinking about it, and I said, never fear, Cora May is here. Y'all just sit right there. I've got the solution out in the car. Because you see, I had been by Uncle Ethbert's house. And I had gotten some moonshine. So I went out and I got a small jar, a little mason jar, and I brought it in for him, and I told him it was moonshine wine. And the best part about it, it had a twisty top. They didn't have to worry about no cork. So we cracked that baby open, and we had us some Shabbat moonshine wine. So you see, it all turned out good, even though Doreen almost lost her life over that Shabbat wine. But it's good. It's good. It's good. It's good. So there you have it. See, I'm a hero. Y'all think I ought to get a medal for saving her life?
Muted, Sandy.
This story is going to go down in history, Cormay, and I think you did help your fellow sisters and cousins out. And maybe you're the Shabbat day saver for those that need help. I don't know.
Well,
I do have a question,
they have enjoyed every Shabbat, that moonshine wine. I mean, they look forward to it. They just get them a little snort, and they just really rest on Shabbat.
How much moonshine wine do they drink on Shabbat?
I don't know. It keeps increasing each week. I might have to talk to them about that. But right now, I don't want to shock them because, their Baptist background might kind of, make them feel bad.
Yeah.
Nothing against the Baptists now. Not a thing against the Baptists. Not saying anything against them. They's good people. They's real good people. They get you saved. They get you in.
Hey.
And you know what? When Florine and Doreen were baptized, they was a fighting each other to get in the creek first because the creek had been dammed up by a beaver and the water wasn't flowing. So Florine happened to get in first. And we was asking her, why were you two fighting over it? And they said, well, y'all know the water's supposed to be flowing because if you jump in the creek and it ain't flowing and you get baptized and you ain't the first one in, if you're next, you might go in with your sins and come out with somebody else's sins. So there you have it. That's why they was fighting. Of course, they had to get some dynamite and blow up the beaver dam because a lot of folks wasn't wanting to get baptized yet. They didn't want somebody else's sins on them. They had enough to deal with themselves.
Well, wow. What experiences you have, Cormay. I think that you are going to have to come on and let us know what's going on in your life a lot more.
Well, I'll tell you, today I'm supposed to go by Cousin Ethbert's, and then I got to go help a friend wrestle their cat. He's a big old cat. He's got a bobtail like a bobcat, but he ain't as tough as he thinks he is. Oh, there I see. Oh, there comes Cousin Bob and Cousin Sherry. They're bringing my truck. All right, well, I got to run, y'all. I got to run. Y'all just have a great time. I guess Cousin Sherry will be here in a minute, and I'm going to go out there with Cousin Bob. We're going to get the riding lawnmower loaded in the back of my truck. Then I can go on down the road, go help my friend with his cat. And then I got to go check on some goats. So y'all just have a good day. And
thank you, Cormay. Bye.
Tomorrow. Bye. Bye. Bye.
All right. Well, did you guys enjoy Cormay? I think you did. I think this is the first time I've got to be with Cormay live. Only on rewatching have I seen it before. So I totally enjoyed that. And wow, what a life Cormay has, right? Well, we have
I was going to say full of joy.
Full of joy. And now we know that she's a cat wrestler. Not a wrestler, a cat wrestler. So we'll have to hear that story one of these days. But we have something else special coming up for you right now. We haven't had a movie moment in over a year, I believe, but we do today. And Mr. Mark David Smith is going to bring that time forward to us. We're going to discuss and analyze and get you thinking. That's what we're going to do. So, Mark, you can take it away.
Let's all go to the lobby.
I had to get myself up on the big screen some way, even if I have to do it myself. So this week, this time, I'm going to talk about time travel movies, and you're probably asking why time travel movies. I mean, we're a religious bunch. Why should we like time travel movies? Well, I don't know. I'm not saying you do or don't or whatever. I do. I think it's interesting. My wife rarely watches movies. I mean, she does. If I put something on, she'll watch it. To some extent, and she gets into it, whatever. But all I got to do is mention time travel movie, and she's like, "Yeah, put that on. Let's see what it's about." But that you can go about any direction with time travel movies. So why time travel movies? Well, time travel movies are not just about time travel. To me, I like concept movies, even if they're not time travel. Concept. I like something somebody has come up with that is not of the norm, that's going to get me to think about something. It's going to get me to go outside of the normal everyday thought pattern of things and consider alternative thought patterns, things that are out there. I like books about concept and that type of thing. So I like time travel movies. Almost always have a separate concept to them. It's got like an agenda or a twist or something like that. So I thought what would be interesting, because I think most people do like time travel movies. To me, just you stop and think, most of us were raised Christian, or something, or in a religion similar to that, but yet we switched our lifestyle over to this messianic lifestyle that we live. Why? Because the concept of it it grabbed us. It was like it made us think. It did with me, and I figure that that is the difference between most other religions, Christianity, which you grow up in and you're born into, and you get yourself baptized at the Baptist church and that type of thing. But the Messianic lifestyle is one that makes you think. You don't belong to it unless you think about it. And that's what I like about movies in general. I mean, if I watch a movie about a day in the life of somebody, it's okay. It's entertainment. But if I can find a concept movie that's going to make me think, like my Messianic lifestyle, like Torah, like God puts it out there, then you got me. And so the Messianic lifestyle is like a twist. It's like a concept. It's like something that makes you think. So I'm going to read off. I made a list of TV shows and movies both, and I'm going to read them off real quick here. And mostly I'm doing that just to bring back a memory to you, because I would be challenged to think that most of you have seen either one or all of these TV shows and movies I'm going to list. But when I list them off, stop and think, wasn't there like a twist to this besides it being a time travel that you hadn't ever thought of before? So of course, TV show. I'm going to start off with TV shows. The most famous one of all time, and I'm 66. So if you're real young, you're not going to remember this, but most of us that are, of any age is going to remember Quantum Leap. Scott Bakula. My gosh, what an amazing show to start off all the concepts and the different things that they were doing. But let me mention a couple of other TV shows. 12 Monkeys. I don't know if you've seen that. Very, very in-depth TV series that has, made you think. Others, Travelers, really good show. Of course, Heroes and Fringe, two of the all-time biggest TV series that's ever been on, that was just followed all over the world. Great. Now, one of the best ones these days that I really like, and I highly recommend this, especially if you're a Star Trek fan, is the new Star Trek Discovery. By far every single show I've seen, and I'm almost finishing up the third season, the newest season right now, their time travel, their concept of that show, every single episode stands alone. It is really good, great conceptual writing. So highly, highly recommend it. The other two, of course, is Heroes and Fringe, are my two most favorite that I would recommend, highly recommend. So getting on with movies, kind of made a list here, and I'm going to divide them up a little bit into a couple of different categories. Regular movies, Adeline, my wife's favorite time travel movie, and not necessarily one of my favorites. I like it. I watch it again, but by the way, there's a lot more than what's on my list. What I'm going to mention to you are movies that I would probably watch again. The other ones that are out there, I would just never watch. You might go to back to TV shows. Somebody's going to say, well, what about Doctor Who? Never saw it. Never interested. I probably watched a few minutes of it and said, not for me, not going to do it. But back to movies. So you got Adeline, Time Traveler's Wife. Time Traveler's Wife is one of my daughter's favorite movies. And once again, not one of my favorite, but the concept is really good. Others are like Forever Young, Time Trap, real old ones. Journey to the Beginning of Time, Journey to the End of Time. Excellent, excellent movies. A couple of other real popular ones is X-Men, Days of Future Past. Real good. I like the concept of getting the earlier movies were getting to know the Star Trek characters and then sending them all the way to the past for the other movies. Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, great movie. Clock Stoppers, Jack Black, really fun movie, really good. Another couple is Paycheck, which was, I can't think of his name, Ben Affleck and Kate and Leopold. Great, great romantic time travel movie. Okay, so my all-time favorite time travel movies are the Bill and Ted movies. The newest one is the best of the three. The second one, not all that great, but if you're going to follow the series, then it's okay. Deals with death and, that kind of stuff. But the third one, best of all three, highly recommended. Of course, the Terminator movies are all really good, every one of them. When they started going, they added more on at the end. They kept going back in time, and it was really good. Looper, oh my gosh, one of the best, by far one of the best. Premonition with Sandra Bullock, really good. Deja Vu with Denzel Washington, great movie. Butterfly Effect, oh my gosh, what a concept. Really, really good. And of course, we can't forget Frequency. Oh my gosh, what a great idea. They even made a TV show out of it that I really liked. Lake House, Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves. Oh my gosh. Wow. Great concept. Back to the Future movies. Come on, man. Classics. Extreme classics there. 13 going on 30. Come on. Great movie. What a good idea for a movie. If you've never seen The Lost Room, you need to look it up, buy it. It's good, by far top of my list here for it's a 3-part series that extremely good writing, good concept. The Dark Tower, a little bit dark, but really good. A great twist that keep happening in the movie that I thought was really good. Doctor Strange, one of the Avengers series, is really good. I love how he can make things go through and all that. Really good idea. Come on, classic Groundhog Day. Come on, you can't pass that one up. Bill Murray. Oh my gosh, Groundhog Day. Movie called 11-14. There were 4 or 5 different things that happened in this one area of a town, and they all happened at 11-14, and they happened in different places, real close together. But by the end of the movie, they take them in sections, and you see one section, then they back it up and then watch it to 11-14. Then they take it to another section. And by the time you get to the end of the movie, oh my gosh, wow, that all connected together. Great. Come on, another classic. Minority Report. Come on, best movie ever. Jumper was a good one. Matrix movies. Come on, extremely good. Memento starts at the end and keeps going until you reach the beginning. Amazing movie. Avengers Endgame, really good concept movie. I loved the way they did it. Number 1 watched movie of all time. 3 newest movies. 2067. Which has a great line. They go ahead in time to reposition the foliage on the earth that causes oxygen. The greatest line in this movie is that man is the virus. There's nothing wrong with the planet. Absolutely nothing. The planet didn't do anything wrong. Man is the virus. What a great idea. Another one is Parallel. It's pretty good. It's about a bunch of people, not kids, young adults that find a mirror and they go into time, which is offset, and it's like a parallel universe, but they use it for wrong. Synchronic is a drug that when you take it, wherever you're at, you go back in time to a different time right there. Like 200 years, but where was this 200 years ago? If you move over there, it's a different time, but you're right there. Great idea for a movie. All three of these last ones, not the best made, but anyway. So my all-time favorite movie I didn't mention of time travel movies is Project Almanac. Number one recommended time travel movie that I liked and highly, highly recommend. So I've used up more of my time. Sorry about that, but there you go. I had to get through that list. I mean, come on. You can't tell me you haven't seen most of those movies.
I had probably seen half to 3/5 of them. So, but I can tell you this, I want your list.
Yeah.
Okay, it's fine. I'll send you my list.
Because you sparked my curiosity. And, I saw two of the movies that 2067 and then Parallel. And, as you said, they may not be up there with the rest of them, but they're still interesting concepts. And
that's the key to it. Right.
I think that, I guess for 26, well, I'm not going to say that because you ruined the movie. Forget zip.
The idea of what they did, though, was really cool. I've never, you don't think about that because they had gotten rid of all the foliage on the planet.
No
more green foliage on the planet. They had to create their own artificial oxygen. So they wanted to go find, they had to go ahead in time to bring some back, and come to find out it wasn't the planet's fault. It was man's fault. They're the virus.
Well, and the thought of that, I'm just like, come on, people. And anyway, I'm one that says
agenda.
Plant your trees, do your thing too. So don't tear down the environment. Well, I think everybody has a watch list because one quick thing before we go forward. Time travel is not so out there because I want you to understand that some consider the translation that you see in the Bible, where you see people translate it as time travel. So and they call it that, even though in the Christian or Messianic, we say translation, but in the world, they would call it time traveling. So in actuality, we have time traveling in the word.
I agree. The greatest time travel book on the planet, the Bible.
And if you listen to Steve Mutria, I mean, there's so many theories on how the greater Exodus is going to take place, but Steve Mutria says that the bride, the rest will go on the Exodus, but the bride will be translated to the mountain. We're not going to get into teaching. There's no time for that, but interesting. I loved it. Thank you.
Can I say, beam me up, Yeshua? Sorry, Trekkie fan.
Discovery. If you're not watching Discovery, you've missed the best Star Trek.
Oh, I got
I've only watched season 1. Actually, Shay, that's in our chat, she's the one that lent me her season 1, so I could watch it. Oh my
gosh! Is it not the best Star Trek ever?
It's good.
It is
good.
Okay, we ready? Going to news?
Yeah, we're going to news.
See you on the other side.
Well, this has to do with children. We've talked, there's been so much news about what's going on in our government, what's going on in the world, what's going on here and there. I decided to touch on what's happening with our kids because we seem to forget about our kids. Well, I have several little snippets here to share with you. And first, I'm going to just read a definition that has to go along with this, and it's called re-education. To educate again, as for a new purpose, to educate for resumption of normal activities as disabled person, to rehabilitate or reform through education, training, political indoctrination, etc. I thought I would just bring that definition real quick because we're going to be using that word a couple of times here. And one of the articles that I have here is, and I'm just going to do this one real quick, is this was on Writers School District investigating home visit by police officers over failing grades. And this was produced this year, January 5th. And in fact, the NAACP, whatever, has gotten involved with this. And what happened is the police officers have been coming to the houses of kids that are failing in their classes. And one of them was failing in, believe it or not, ceramics class. And they came to the door because, now the kids, most of them are at home doing their home education. And police officers in St. Louis, Missouri, this is happening at. And some of the parents got upset about it, and why are you bringing a police officer to talk to my child about his grades? That's not a police officer's job. So we have that going on. The other thing, and the parents are shocked about this. They're really concerned because you get a knock on the door with a police officer asking for your 15-year-old child. Makes you wonder, what did my kid do? And you find out your kid didn't do anything except for not turn in its homework, and he's getting a failing grade. We also have another article 15 days ago. Democrats want conservative children taken from parents. And the principal counsel from the Public Broadcasting Services revealed, and this is like the lawyer of this PBS, his disturbing radical views in a new undercover video from Project Veritas. In the video released on Tuesday, Michael Beller was heard saying Americans are, I'm not going to say the first word, dumb, and that children of Republican voters should be put into re-education camps. The principal counsel for the nonprofit corporation, which receives millions in taxpayer funding each year, also compared President Donald Trump to Hitler while advocating throwing Molotov cocktails at the White House. And it says, we go for all the Republican voters and Homeland Security will take their children away. What do you think about that? Beller asked. An undercover Project Veritas journalist in the undercover video, and we'll put them into re-education camps. So then the journalist says, amen. Then he says, in these times, which are unique, Trump is close to Hitler, Beller said. What are you going to do if we, Democrats, don't win? The journalist asked in another part of the clip. So this goes on, and he believes that we should take our children away. They should be indoctrinated. And then you have, again, PBS indoctrinating our kids. It's time to defund them. So you've got PBS starting to indoctrinate our kids. One of the shows, it's a famous show that they have on PBS for children, an educational show called Arthur. And I think I sent Sandy the video. And in this video, it shows Arthur's teacher getting married. And the kids assume that he's marrying a woman. We'll come to find out at the end of the show, it is a same-sex marriage. This is being shown to our children, and they are already indoctrinating our children through PBS shows, through Sesame Street, through Arthur, and many other shows that are on PBS, public television, and our tax-paying money is paying for this. And we need to stand up. We need to start speaking up, and we need to tell our congressmen, our senators, and all of those in position that we do not want this, and we need to take back our kids. So it's time, guys, to stand firm and take back our kids. And especially, I'm going to say this, Sandy has said this day and age, no more public school, no more private schools, guys, because they are already indoctrinating our kids and brainwashing them into believing that the parents are wrong and that they are right. and they've already started the process of taking our children away. You're muted, Sandi.
Sherry, did you want to say something?
Well, I mean, that has been their goal from the beginning. I mean, it actually, in my opinion, kind of started in the churches when they started sending the kids back to kids' church and to be taught in the back of what I mean, it's our responsibility as parents to teach our children the Word of God. And we have, because of culture, have regulated that to somebody else. And I'll give you a prime example. We had in a Messianic community, because Bob and I had mentioned Two House, we were banned from the Bema from teaching the Torah portions, but they were letting two women in the back teach the kids that eventually gave up Yeshua. They would put anybody back there. They would put any warm body back there. And my point to them, I said, I don't care if y'all ban us from the Bema. I mean, it is what it is. But I'm going to tell you something. You're putting any warm body back there in children's school, in Shabbat school, and you don't know what they're teaching your kids. And children cannot filter things. I mean, we could stand up and say something to someone, and they've got enough knowledge of the word that they could filter it and make their own decisions. A child is going to believe what you tell them. And I said, you guys have got warm bodies back there. Just any old warm body, just throw them back there. I said, that's the one you need to be guarding against. And sure enough, two of the women that were teaching back there, a little bit while later, one of these anti-missionaries came through. They gave up the Messiah. They made their children recant from receiving Yeshua. It was horrible what happened because they got deceived. But my point is, is about the kids. We're responsible for our kids. And they'll believe, like you said, they're told the parents are stupid and all that. Well, they'll believe it. Because they're kids. They can't filter things. They don't have the life skills to filter things.
Well, it's not only kids, our teenagers, even our young adults believe it too when they're in the school system, in the college system. Even if they've been raised and protected when they're younger, once they get into to high school, junior high, and even college, it can immediately turn them around if that's the influence. And we've got to watch out. Mark.
The only thing I can think about is that whatever point that we have to start deprogramming our children, we should bow our heads and say, where did I go wrong? It's just that we should never have to deprogram our children. And I know that's not what you were talking about, but it's every day. We all know that every day it gets more and more and more that we have to watch every single thing. Every little thing has an agenda. It's so interesting. My wife and I love documentaries, and we found a new documentary yesterday that we were both of us practically in tears the whole hour we were watching it. And it's about autistic kids that have grown up. They're now, in their early 20s, but it's about dating. And it's about them, they have natural desires, obviously, but they're autistic, so they're different. And so it's even more challenging for them because they have the same desires that everybody does. The only thing, when we were loving it, it was good. The characters were good. We were feeling empathy and all this kind of stuff. And all of a sudden, this girl, one of the autistic girls, she goes on a date with this guy, and we think it's going great. But as soon as it's over, she says, it was okay, but it just makes me realize that I like girls more than guys. And then she goes on a date with a girl, and she's just emphatic and just everything's wonderful. And it's like, no matter what you're going to do, no matter the documentary, the show, the movie, whatever's in the media anymore, every single one of them has to bring in something about the LGBT something in there. Everything. It's everywhere. Everything.
Did you know they get paid for that? Every documentary, any TV, any movie, when you have it, they actually get a paycheck for bringing that in.
Yep.
So, hey, folks, here's the bottom line. You need to guard your children and protect your children just as Yahweh protects us. That is your job. Remember, you're his hands and feet, so you do what he does. And that means right now yes, Yeshua is their hedge of protection, and they are covered by the blood, but you have the physical duty to guard and protect and keep them away from the world. So,
and anyway, I did copy and paste the articles so you can see them and read more into what they had to say.
All right. Everybody look at the articles and watch out for your kids. We are about to go to our main segment. And again, we're going to talk about fear, the frequency of fear, the spirit of fear. We're going to anyway, stay tuned. Well, fear, one more time. Why are we talking about it? Because it's pervasive in this society today. There's been such a spirit of fear that has been released into our society that we can see manifest through China virus and the events of the day. It's not just a virus that was released. There's something far more where people act and react differently. And I want you to understand that fear also has a frequency. It literally has a frequency, and a frequency that can even instill and install. It is said that lions roar at a frequency of about 18 decibels, and it will literally, when you have something there, it will cause this fear, physical manifestation of fear to come upon you, and even animals and things like that, which is real interesting. We're not going to talk about that, but I want you to know you can be in the presence of the enemy, but if you know whom you serve, it's not an issue. It doesn't matter what that frequency is. If the enemy is at the doorstep, but do not fear. Remember, he waits, he rests, he can't move. We're the ones that open the door. So it doesn't matter if you're surrounded. So whatever it is, Yahweh is with you. And you know that. But unless you have a strong faith in our King and our Yah, anytime a storm comes into your life, into our lives, the first thing that happens is that we begin to lose our shalom, our peace, and begin to, all of a sudden, we feel fear and panic and worry. And those are all not from Yah. No, it's the enemy, Hasatan, who injects what if into our thoughts, into our heads, and we begin to think, what if this outcome, what if that outcome, what's going to happen? Guys, that is fear, and those are snake eggs. Those are things the enemy has planted in our mind, and we're supposed to take every thought captive. Yes, we are. I mean, remember that there is no safer place than the center of his will. I don't care if the storms are raging. I don't care if you're in a prison or in a prison-like place, or the enemy surrounds you. If you're in the center of his will, that's the perfect and most safe place. Now, I want us to go and understand a few things. I'm going fast because I have a lot to cover. But when David had the stone and he threw it at Goliath, remember, stone is Eben. And think about the stone, Yeshua, the rock, the stone the builders rejected. You're going to face giants. But that word and Yeshua are what will cause that giant to fall to the ground where you can cut off his head. But you must take action. You must take action. And if you don't see the power of God working mightily in your life, you need to do a life check. If they're not problems that rise up, we know that the enemy comes in when he says, hey, you're messing with my kingdom and my territory. So I'm going to send an obstacle along your way. And many times the beginning and the root of how he does it is fear. We struggle with it. Fear of the unknown, the future, our kids, our nation, our finances, health, death. What do others think about us? Ridicule. Oh, the weather, the government, you name it. We fear. We are people that walk in fear instead of faith. And that's why we see so many with today's circumstances walking in fear and no faith. They don't turn to Yahweh, our Elohim. They turn to the God of the white coats. They turn to the government and other things. No, we do not walk in fear. When you look at fear in Hebrew, yareh, you use this yud and this resh and this olive. And the yod is the arm and the closed hand, meaning to work and to throw and to worship. And the resh is the head of a man. And the olive is the ox head, which is strong and power and leader. So what the man fears in this pictograph is what the man bows his head to in worship, as in greater than himself. When you elevate your thoughts on this thing and you focus on this thing and it is constantly on your mind, it's almost as if you are worshiping that, because that has taken the place of Yah. And again, it starts with, do we take our thoughts captive? Because the spies, the 10 spies, they all saw the same thing. But 2 of them, Joshua and Caleb, they knew who their source was, and they remembered who they were in the midst of it. Fear can show up in so many ways. It can cause you to be hesitant. It can cause you to be insecure, full of doubt, unbelief. But it also manifests in your body physically. You may fear things of the past. You may fear things of the future, but we all have to take an evaluation of our own life and say, where do we stand in this? Do we let fear move us? If you are worrying about something, then yes, you do. Fear is a weapon of Hasatan. He uses it to keep us from moving forward. He uses it to paralyze us, to intimidate us, to keep us from being who we're supposed to be and accomplishing what Yah has called us to do, because he brings us to this state of fear where we're frozen. So when something negative happens, the enemy wants us to focus on what if, and what's happening in today's world with the government. What if? Well, I still know that our Yah is sovereign no matter what the circumstances. And he says, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. And he also is out there fighting. You remember, as a shield and buckler, he is the one that stands between the enemy and us. He is that shield. So who do we fear? What circumstances do we fear? Do we speak life and faith over them? He wants us to shrink back in fear. But Yahweh desires us to live free from the effects of fear. You know, people spend their entire lives reacting to their circumstances. Well, guess what? You're not supposed to react. You are supposed to act. That means it doesn't matter how you feel or what you've experienced. You act according to the word. You do not react according to the circumstance. And when you do, you realize your life is empty and you haven't accomplished anything because you've let fear surround you and take hold of you. Fear doesn't just show up at the big things. It shows up at the little things too. Remember that. It comes in all forms, but it shows up and it literally keeps you from becoming and doing and being who you are called to be. Even fear of rejection, fear of people making fun of you, all of it affects the way you act and react. It intimidates you. It intimidates you from being who you're supposed to be. When we don't understand how fear works, we can even begin blaming others for the reason we're uneasy or for the reason we haven't accomplished things. But that's not really the case. It's fear. And we are the ones that have to take the weapons of the warfare that Yah has given us. We are the ones that have to stand up and not be afraid and not walk in this constant what if mentality. Even if it shows up unexpectedly, we can't do that. In his word, he says, fear not, over and over and over again. He's not saying that we may not feel fear or experience fear for a moment. We may feel afraid at times, but he's telling us, do not allow fear to control you and prevent you from moving forward. Remember its source. Take those thoughts captive. Speak the word, praise him, and do what he's called you to do, despite what the voices may be saying. Cut those voices off, because that's what courage is. True courage is moving forward in the face of fear. And he did not give you a spirit of fear. He did not give you a spirit of fear. Remember, why are you fighting a fight that has already been won? Yeah, I'm going to say that again. Remember that you are fighting a fight that has already been won. You have been called to be an overcomer, and we are told over and over again, do not fear. That's a commandment. He's not asking or requesting. He says over and over, do not fear. Do not make that thing your God. Well, it's not my God. What you dwell on, where your heart is, where you spend your time, that is a God, little g. And yeah, fear can move us into that place of where that has taken over Yahweh's place in our lives. And we serve that thing, and we act and react according to that thing instead of what Yah says. Stand and do not fear. Pray in the Spirit. Pray unceasingly. Put your armor on and go and make disciples of all nations. Take dominion and push the enemy back. That's the agenda we have. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Fear of anything other than Yahweh is of the enemy. It's a lack of trust in our King. It's a lack of trust in our Father. Again, he says, do not be afraid. If the children of Israel had feared Yahweh and not the inhabitants of the land, things would have been different. But it's a roadmap for us. But what do? We keep repeating those mistakes. How often do we let our circumstances dictate how we live and how we move and how we believe? We do not have that. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to walk around with your head in the clouds. No, we see the same thing the world may see, but we see it through the eyes of Yahweh. And if we fear Yahweh more than we fear others, more than we fear the leftists, more than we fear the police state, more than we fear the enemy, then our eyes will be open and we will say, let's go up. Let's go up, because we can overcome. And that's the words that are supposed to be coming out of our mouth. We also will encourage those around us, not bring them down. What are our words like? Are words speaking forth faith? Are they speaking forth life? Are they speaking forth doom and gloom? Because your tongue, in this last week's tour portion, I taught your tongue, when you break the words down, your tongue is what allows things in and allows things out. Are we speaking life over our nation? I don't care who's in office. I don't care the circumstances. I don't care what day and hour we in. He still says to pray, and he still says Yah's word still says to speak forth life. And that's what we should be doing. Are we those kind of people who walk in fear so that everything that comes out of our mouth establishes fear, brings forth fear? Or when we are around, are we a force that brings shalom into the midst of the group or the person we're talking to, because the word of Yah comes out of our mouth, and all of a sudden that spirit of fear or that what if that they've been walking in changes because they begin to see things through Yah's eyes. That's who we're supposed to be. We fear Yahweh more than we fear man. And anytime we trust in Yahweh, we exercise our faith and we will prosper spiritually always. We can't let our eyes deceive us or focus on what appears to be happening in the natural. Just because you can see the enemy doesn't mean that enemy has any authority over you. And we cannot make that thing our Yah. We can't make that thing the enemy would try to put on us holy. The word says the violent take it by force. Do we? Are you? That's the question. Are you? Are you taking it by force? Are you standing and not being moved? Or do you let Yahweh sit on the throne of your soul, of your heart? Or do you allow some other thing to come, yourself, your circumstance, to sit on the throne and guide and direct your life and cause you to move left or right? What is it? David said, when I'm afraid, I put my trust in you. Psalm 56:3. 2 Chronicles 27 says, 20:17 says, you shall not need to fight in this battle. Take your positions and stand still and see the deliverance of the Lord who is with you, O Judah and Jerusalem. Fear not, nor be dismayed. Tomorrow go out against them, for Yah is with you. Around us, we see a world acting and reacting in fear. Churches, congregations have closed. People have stopped gathering. The government's threatening, and people cower and line up as zombies to do whatever they say, because we have a world full of fear right now. But we serve the living God who has overcome the world, and you are the overcomer. You're his hands and feet. We stand, and we know who we are, and we know who we serve, and we shall not be moved. That's the word. We shall not be moved. Do not allow fear to take hold in your life, no matter what your circumstances may be. Do not let the spirit of fear move you, as that spirit that's been released, not just in this nation, but throughout the world. The world is experiencing something that it never has. And it's a spiritual attack where leaders no longer lead as they've promised, or as they've said, or even as they've done in the past. But it seems they've quickly switched sides, because there's a spirit that's been released, and part of that operates in intimidation and fear. Remember what I said? Why are you fighting a fight that's already been won? Why are you doing it? Who do you remember? Who do you serve? Are you going to take that stone, that word, Yeshua, and knock the giant down? Or are you going to let the giant squash you with his foot because you fear? The promises of the enemy, he may promise safety, but they will lead to destruction. The only true safe place is in the center of his will. And you can be in the presence of the enemy. The enemy has surrounded you on every side. Your finances, what are we going to do? Your children, what is happening? Society, whatever it may be. But if you know whom you serve, he can't, and you act upon that, he can't touch you. Do not fear. Do not fear. For Yah is with you, so who can be against you? Greater is he who is within you than he who is within the world. Do not fear. Remember who you are. You are a soldier in the army of Yah. You've been given the weapons to fight the battle. He didn't leave you unequipped. And he's given you the strongest thing, the most powerful thing in your arsenal. But you have to take action. You take your thought captives and stand with that armor on. And remember, you're not alone. If he is for you, who can be against you? All right, guys, I tried to say a lot really, really fast. So come on in.
Can I'd like to read this devotion. I read a devotion every morning. And on the 24th, it says, strive to trust me in more and more areas of your life. Anything that tends to make you anxious is a growth opportunity. Instead of running away from these challenges, embrace them, eager to gain all the blessings I have hidden in the difficulties. For if you believe that I am sovereign over every aspect of your life, it is possible to trust me in all situations. Don't waste energy regretting the way things are or thinking about what might have been. Start at the present moment, accepting things exactly as they are. Now, I don't agree with that, but to accept them and to be like David, okay? And search for my way in the midst of those circumstances. Trust is like a staff you can lean on as you journey uphill with me. If you are trusting in me consistently, the staff will bear as much of your weight as needed. Lean on, trust, and be confident in me with all your heart and your mind. And we need to learn to do that. And you brought up David in 1 Samuel 17. Y'all read the whole story. It shows the fear that a whole group of soldiers that had the armor on, okay, had physical armor on, were scared of a giant. And a shepherd boy comes along, and he had the armor of Yahovah, and he spoke forth Yahovah's word to the giant who was blaspheming, because he could see the giant, but he saw behind the giant something even bigger, which was Yahovah. And we need to remember that story, because that shows us right there that we, if we follow him and we're in that full armor of God, that the things of this world will be defeated, and we will win because we have him. Because if you read the end of the book, or really Genesis to Revelation, the whole thing shows us that he wins. So why are we afraid?
Amen. Sherry.
Well, fear is actually a form of unbelief. And I heard, and I've never personally counted it, but I've heard that it says, do not fear 365 times in the Bible. So it means one for every day. He tells us every day, do not fear. But unbelief is what kept our ancestors, like you were referring to, from entering in to the land, to the promised land. And they were fearful, so they didn't believe. And it got so bad that Yahweh could not persuade them. That word there is that they couldn't be persuaded. So we need to trust him. He loves us. He cares for us. He sent Yeshua to die in our place. And like I've said before, I'm not volunteering, and I would really have to trust the Lord. But I mean, if it came to us dying for him, we still get resurrected. We still win. So, and I think that's really what encouraged the early believers.
Right.
So they didn't even fear death.
That's true.
The biggie.
It is. Hey, I was just thinking of something, Mark, and you'll probably relate to this. I had talked about the frequency of fear, and I didn't have to a lot of time to go into it. But I remember a movie, and I think it was one of them where they have the compilation of Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman. And Batman, there's these little bug-like creatures, almost demonic, that have come up from the pit, and they attack those. It's the line in the movie. It says they can smell fear, and it will attract them to you, and then it attracts them to you, and they kill you or do whatever. But it just reminded me that that frequency, and it's really apropos too, because those creatures came up from the pit, and they attacked you when they smelled fear, because fear is that open door. Anyway, movie reference. There you go.
Yeah, it's not only us. Everybody alive recognizes fear. Everybody alive. I mean, that is a word that is taught at a very young age. Every child knows the word fear, and parents have to teach their children how to fear, and what to fear and not to fear, and that type of thing. My gosh, you just made a reference to a movie. I scan movies. I look at trailers and things all the time. Once again, as I said earlier, I'm into concepts, and I grab a hold of anything. It's extremely noticeable how many horror movies have children in them, or based around children. And even this ties to our whole show today, because Joe's talking about, making sure that we watch over our kids and take back our kids and that type of stuff. Yet they are, even the world knows that if we can grab our kids early, then we have them in our control. A bully manipulates and works for weaknesses, okay, and fear to me, fear is a weakness within our soul, within who we are. I wrote this down as you were talking about. You said that we've not been given a spirit of fear. We all know that fear is healthy. We know that if fear is in the right way. An ungodly fear, which is a spirit of fear, that's an ungodly fear, is not healthy. And it's just the world knows this, and bullies know this. The world, you can even look at the world as bullies because they know how to manipulate the world. They've had years and years and years of practice manipulating the people of the world. And now that we have communication, we have the internet, and we have television, and we have movies, and we have all of this media that the bullies of the world can now grab a hold of. We know Satan does everything little by little by little by little. Pretty soon, we have no idea we're right smack in the middle of something that's going on. And so, just like creating movies that involve horror stuff and monsters and things like that, that totally engulf children. They're starting young. They know how to do it. They are using those manipulation tactics. And we're not given a spirit of fear. That is what, like I say at the beginning, we start off very early, and especially anymore, teaching our children what fear is and what the right fear, good, righteous fear is, and respect and that type of thing, what bad fear is. But if you're not following the Lord, if you don't have a commitment to God, then you're not going to be teaching your children these right concepts, these righteous concepts to your children, and they are going to fall into the worldly concept, right? And it's huge. It's just huge. The media, and we know that with all the media devices that children have access to, you literally have to watch every second of everything they're doing, because it doesn't even make a difference if they're looking something up. Something is going to pop up that's going to be of interest, and they know how to make it look interesting, not only to kids, to teenagers, to adults, the whole thing. You don't even have to go looking for it. They're gonna bring it to you. And if you're weak, that's why I say fear is a weakness. And that's what Satan is after, is to find those weaknesses and go after those weaknesses. So that's what you said. Was I wrote down the what if. Sherry did a whole teaching on what if that was just absolutely amazing. I mean, it's been a while back, but really, really good. Anyway, so much more we can say.
Yeah. Well, you guys, did anybody have a last word they wanted to put in there?
I thought that was the last word. No, I'm sorry.
There you go. That can be the last word. That's fine. I know we've been covering the topic of fear for a few weeks, but it's a huge topic. It's something huge that each and every one of us deal with daily, actually, or choose to push away from our lives daily. And so anyway, why don't you go, everybody, if you're listening, go ahead and like the show, share it, and let other people know about us.
I like the show.
Good. Good. Anyway, we are glad that you have been a part of this family and this network, and stay tuned for the rest of the network. There's so much there. Go to messianiclambradio.com, or just go and be filled up with life giving teaching. That's what I've got to say about that. Anyway, we will see you guys next week. And until that time, we all say shalom.
Shalom.
Ta-ta.
We'll be dancing in the streets, dancing at his feet, dancing in the streets of gold. We'll be dancing in the streets, dancing at his feet, dancing in the New Jerusalem. And we will sing Kadosh, Kadosh to the Lord of hosts, joining in the angels' choir. And forever we will be.
Do not touch that dial. Do not click off that page. We are Lamb Radio. I wanted to mention real quickly before actually was going to do this earlier. So far, I checked this morning. There are 25 known dead, and still a lot of people missing from the tornado in the Nashville area. And so our hearts go out to these families in the area and all the devastation that's there. Sarah and I are very, very, very aware of tornadoes and what they can do and when they arrive. As a matter of fact, my daughter, though I love her and I think she's the most brilliant, wonderful, smartest person in the planet, lives in Moore, Oklahoma.
I sure do. And I love every second of it.
This is the girl that would not go in the tornado exhibit for what's the movie whatever in the theme park, Twister. The Twister exhibit in either Nickelodeon when we went or
Universal Studios.
Universal Studios. She wouldn't go in there. It scared her too much. She couldn't go in there. Now she lives in Moore, Oklahoma, which is the tornado capital of the world.
The world. And
it's like, okie dokie. So, we lived, our house, so what Sarah grew up in was 2 miles south of the tornado that happened on May 20th. And I can't remember what year it was, May 20th, that just wiped out Moore, Oklahoma, literally. And we have a lot of friends that lost their homes and all kinds of devastation there in Moore, Oklahoma. We lived just 2 miles south of the edge of that tornado.
I watched it
when it happened. So what?
I watched it. I remember all of that going on, and I ran out to 36th Street. And I stood there and I watched and I saw that big wall cloud. I'm sitting on that was 2013.
13? Okay.
Because I was on the phone with Cameron.
Okay.
And I was talking to Cameron. We were just dating at the time. And I was watching that wall cloud. And he was supposed to be going to Moore that day, I believe it was. But he got held back up in Norman. So I was talking to him on the phone, like, where are you? Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I remember that.
And I was at work in North Oklahoma City, and we watched it all on the television. And I left early because we worked in North Oklahoma City, but lived south of Moore, which is you have North Oklahoma City, Moore, and Norman. And so I had to get from there to there. And the tornado went through there.
Yes.
And what usually took me 35 to 45 minutes to get home took me 5.5 hours that day to get home.
It took a long time. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a rough one. So Sarah and I are familiar with it. And also she doesn't really remember, but the tornadoes that happened in our hometown of Parsons.
I just remember sitting on that tree stump that fell, the big one that fell over, and like Grandma and I sat there and just watched you guys on the house. Like I just remember watching that. And I remember a little bit coming home that night after Pesach, because it was after our Pesach Seder, and we were coming home. And
you remember that, huh? Wow.
I remember it being dark. We drove by Casey's, and it was dark. It was so dark, and we were like, "That's weird."
Yeah, well, I remember.
Yeah.
It was so funny because we had done the Passover Seder in a Quonset hut, and at the time we were at the hail, it was hailing.
Oh, it was so loud.
It was so loud we couldn't even hear us do the Passover Seder. And it was just absolutely amazing. But we're used to storms and everything. And that's 30 miles from where we lived in Parsons, Kansas. And we didn't, of course, we cleaned up and everybody was left, and we got the place all cleaned up and did what we had to do with the Tomlinsons, and then drove home. And when we got to Parsons, which is a town of like 12,000, was black. I mean, just black. There was not one light on in Parsons when we got back, and got home, and it was black. And we didn't think a thing about it, didn't know a thing about it.
Yeah.
And we figured the electricity had come back on and everything, and so we all went to sleep, and my sister called at 7:30 the next morning, and I answered the phone. Of course, this is landlines back then. Answered the phone. First words out of her mouth is, "Mom and Dad's okay."
Awesome.
and I remember clear as if it was today. Okay, Mom and Dad's okay. Okay, well, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
And she goes, "Mark, we had a tornado. They got hit last night." And it was like, "What?" And she says, "Yeah, they were. I think they were over there or something like that." So we all got there real quick, and it took what usually takes us 5 minutes to get from our house to their house. Took us 20 minutes because we had to drive country roads way back around and come in from the other side and the whole thing. And they had made it to the storm cellar of the neighbors next door. And it's so funny because the windows were all blown out in the 2-story house that they lived in. But other than that, and a little bit of wind and debris damage on the house, which really wasn't a lot, you couldn't really tell. The trees were down, and I mean it was devastating. It was huge. You could see major damage, but the house was not really damaged. And the house where they were in the basement of the house, that house was demolished. But their house was still intact, basically. And I'll never forget that FEMA came out like they do every single house, and they check every single property and everything. And they totaled my parents' house because the house, as it sets, only just the whole thing turned 2 inches, about 1.5 inches to 2 inches. It took the house and just shifted it. The whole stinking house on the foundation. It's the concrete foundation. So no telling. If it had been, and most houses in Kansas have basements and stuff. Theirs was on a solid.
We didn't either.
Who knows what?
I said we didn't have a basement either. Wasn't there like like a tree or something on top of the storm shelter entrance, and so it took you guys a while. Wasn't there something like blocking Grandma and Grandpa from getting out of the shelter?
I don't remember that.
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
remember. I know the house was about 3/4 destroyed. When we got there, we could see that was one of the things, because on the block they lived in, which was on the absolute edge of town,
Yeah.
here is the block, and the road 10th Street, 12th Street, 12th Street.
12,
It's right
12,
here,
12,
and then on the other side of 12 is fields. So literally, they lived on the literal edge of the town.
Yeah.
And on that block, you had 2 houses on one end, and an empty lot, a house, my parents' house, and then the rest of the lots were empty. So
Yeah.
it came through and wiped out the house on either side of them, and then just shifted their house. So what does my dad do? My dad goes out, and he already owned the empty lot next door to their house. What's he do? He goes and buys a double-wide mobile home, sets it on the lot, and tears down the 2-story house.
Yeah.
You just got annihilated by a tornado.
It's a trailer.
Double-wide mobile home, and set it right next door. It actually the lot that got wiped out. So,
Yeah.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.
We are grateful you appreciate this radio station and the message it promotes about the true lifestyle of hope given in teachings and in songs of worship. Your humble donations will ensure the continuance of the message of hope to brethren worldwide by Messianic Lamb Radio. Don't go away. Your show will start after a brief pause.